Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to share with you 4 fun Halloween brownie ideas. This first one you're seeing is the mummy, the brownie mummy, super easy to make. The second is our tombstone brownie, or sometimes called a graveyard brownie, just simply because the feature is the tombstone. The third that we'll talk about is the melted witch brownie, super cute. And last, we'll talk about this vampire brownie. So again, 4 different brownies I'm going to cover today in this video. All are super easy. I used this Betty Crocker milk chocolate brownie mix for all of the brownies that I'll show you today. As long as you follow the box instructions, you could use any brownies or you can even make them from scratch. I like to line my brownie pan with some foil and just give it a quick spray of Pam. It just makes pulling those brownies out of the pan, getting them onto my space for decorating a lot easier. A lot of times I'm making a lot of brownies at once. It also lets me get those brownies out of the pan, and then I can quickly get that pan reused to get another batch of brownies into the oven. So basically I can pull that aluminum foil out of the pan and then just pull back the foil from the bottom of the brownies and then flip that brownies back over so it's right side up, and I'm ready to go. Once I get that brownie flipped over, I like to cut the edges off. I use a pizza cutter for that. And I usually cut about 1 inch off of each side. Now, in my opinion, this is some of the best part of the brownie, so I'm not throwing this away. I'm just doing this so that when I create my decorated brownie pieces, they have more of a level height, and they'll just look a little bit better. So I cut these edges off, and then I often cut them into chunks, and you can either throw them into a bowl for like ice cream sundae toppings, or you can cut them up. And a lot of times I'm making the brownies for a special occasion, like a party or something, and I will throw the brownie chunks into a bowl, and my family loves it because they can then just eat the brownies, but they're not allowed to eat the brownie bars until it's time for the party. It's important when you're cutting the brownies that you know if a square shape is okay. If it is, it's great because then you can get 9 nice squares from a square shaped brownie pan. If you do need more of a rectangular shape, which you'll see when I do the designs today, I did go with a rectangle, which then only put me to 6 pieces of brownies per pan. I try to do the squares whenever I can, but I think it's the tombstone brownies that I usually do the rectangles just because it looks more like a tombstone when that brownie is rectangular in shape. So I just cut these with my pizza cutter to get my shapes. Okay, let's start with our mummy brownies. I think these are the absolute easiest of the recipes I'll show you today, and they take so little time. So basically, I start with my bars. It looks like I did do my 6 bars on my mummies. Yeah, because the mummies wouldn't look quite as good if they were squares. And I just zigzag my frosting back and forth. If you don't have like a Wilton bag, like I use disposable Wilton bags that I just get at the craft store at Walmart or whatever. If you don't have that, you could use a Ziploc bag. You won't get quite the same flat look of this icing as you go back and forth. Then once you get them iced, the next step is to put on the eyes. I think these eyes are so fun. You can get these, like Walmart has a brand of them that you'll find both in their Halloween section and just in their grocery side where they have all their decorating like icings and cake mixes and stuff. But you can also get them at any of the craft stores in the Wilton section because Wilton makes them as well. You'll find a few different sizes. I like these kind of bigger ones when I'm doing the mummies because pretty much the eyes are all you see on the brownie other than the white icing. So super easy to put together. I will tell you, people absolutely love these mummy brownies when you take them to parties. So good luck if you try to do this one. The next one we're going to look at is the tombstone brownies, or I sometimes call them graveyard brownies, because they feature something that looks like a tombstone. By the way, thanks for stopping at my channel today. If you find anything helpful in the video, please take just a second to tap that like button. If you like a lot of DIY, whether it's party planning, holiday decor, I even do DIY jewelry, just tap that subscribe button. And if you tap the bell, you'll be notified anytime I load a new video. Okay, so the first thing that I do is load up some green frosting into a decorator bag. You could also use just a Ziploc bag. I used a star tip on this. I really don't think that was necessary because all I'm trying to do is get a little patch of green grass next to the graveyard site. And by the time you put the pumpkin on it, you don't really even notice the starish, part of the grass. I set that to the side, and then now I'm ready to decorate my tombstones. You can see on these Milano cookies on each side there's one part of the cookie that's kind of a knot. I just find those because I don't want to write my RIP on top of that knot. It just doesn't look very good. So I get my cookies turned so that the top of the cookie doesn't have the knot, so that I can easily, once I get going with the icing, I can just do them quickly all in a row. Now I'm using this little tube of black icing that you find in the normal aisle of your grocery store, where they have your cake mixes and your frostings and things like that. And it, it's a little thick. Like if you were to use a black icing in a decorating bag, you could probably get a really skinny tip. This is a little bit wider, so you just have to, like I wrote it on the, you can probably see on my wax paper, I practice the letters just because, you don't want to waste your cookies. And what I realized quickly is, wow, this is really flowing out quickly. I always forget that whenever I'm using any of these things. How you just have to be careful as you're writing. But you can see I was really kind of cruising through these, and I think they all turned out pretty good. Don't do it too high up because it's not wide enough. So start down where the curves kind of ended so you can write straight across and get the full width of that cookie. So here you see I've got my RIP written on my Milano cookie tombstones, and I am going to cut off the bottom. Now, you don't have to. You could stick that cookie right into your brownie, but the tombstone just sticks a little high, and I didn't feel like it was very secure. So I just cut that and I stick it into the brownie. Now, you also, my brownies are still a little warm. You also could just push them into the brownie without doing any kind of slit. I do a slit whenever I make these. I don't know if it's just habit. I like it because then it just makes a little place for me to push that cookie down into. You definitely would have to do the split if your brownies were really cool. If they're soft, usually you can kind of push them down in there. So you basically just need to cut off the bottom of the Milano cookie. You do need to hold it. You do need to be careful. You don't want your cookie to crumble. I mean, none of my cookies did crumble. But you just want to be careful as you're cutting it so that you don't do that. And then you just continue to cut the cookies and push them into your brownies into this little slit that you're making. You do have to be careful that your fingers don't hold the tombstone where your writing is. I did have one time where I did that, and I had to kind of clean that up a little bit. So here are your brownies. You could actually call it a day. People would think this was really cute. I just like to get a little bit more color, and I have actually served them this way before, but I would prefer to put just a little bit of green grass next to the tombstone. And again, you can see my star tip here when I'm doing these, but I'm telling you, once you put the pumpkin on it, you really don't even notice that. So a Ziploc bag with a tiny snip in one of the corners, and you could get your green on there pretty easily. And then I just take my cute little, I call them candy corn pumpkins, and just push them right onto your green grass that you have just put on your brownies. And that's really it. It's that simple to put together these tombstone brownies. And these are also just fun to watch people as they're shopping the dessert bar at Halloween or a party or whatever. They always get a real kick out of these tombstone brownies. So this would be another one for you if you're trying to think of some fun brownies to try this year. This would be another great option for you to give a try. Our next brownie is our Melted Witch brownies. Basically, it looks like she has melted away, and all that is left of her is her hat. So these are really fun brownies to make as well, and I'll show you how we do those. I like to start by making my hat. The reason I want to have the hats ready is that when you put on the melted witch, that icing is wet, and you want to put that hat on before it really dries so that it sticks really nicely to the brownie. So I like to have the hats ready. Here you see me getting out the fudge stripe cookies. You can also use, if you want a smaller hat, you can also use the mint cookies that they have. Like I usually use the Walmart brand. They're similar to the Girl Scout mint cookies. I like those because they're smaller. And if you're doing 9 brownies, more of the squares, the hat is more in proportion to the brownies. So I wished that I had gotten the mint ones when I did these, because I didn't do these in 6 brownies. I did them in 9. I'm using 9, getting 9 brownies out of my pan. So they're a little smaller. I think my witch hat turned out a little bigger, but it's fine. And once you get those cookies laid out, then what you need to do is you need to get your little dollop of orange frosting into the center, because that's what the Hershey Kiss is going to stick on. So you can either, sometimes you can find orange frosting already made. Anytime I can, I like to do that. But I didn't, and so I'm just making that with a little yellow and red food coloring. I'm making my orange frosting just by stirring that up in my jar here. Now, I will say I was in a huge hurry because we had to head off to this party, and I still had 2 more kinds of brownies to make. And so I took a lazy step here, and I'm just going to point it out. I still think they're cute. Everybody at the party still thought they were cute, but it drove me crazy. I should have thrown this icing into a Ziploc bag and cut a little hole in the corner, or used my Wilton disposable bags, whatever, so that when I put this hat icing down in the middle, it was a really neat blob of icing. You can see here when I'm doing that how sloppy it is. Now I'm putting a kiss on top, so you kind of press that down and you don't see a whole lot of this. But if I had used a bag and put out a more circular kind of circle for my icing, it just would have looked better. It would have been crisper. So you'll see at the end, you decide if you want to do it or not do it. It probably also will depend how much time you have and how big this event was. This is a big soccer dinner, and it's for boys, and they probably didn't even notice that my icing wasn't perfectly circular. So anyhow, once you get the icing on, it's time to get your kisses into the center of those cookies. So just get those unwrapped. You'll need 9 of the Hershey Kisses. So it's really pretty simple. It's a cookie, some frosting, and a kiss. All right, so next let's move on to making our melted witch. We need to spoon out some of the green frosting into a small bowl. It does not take much frosting to make these melted witches. In fact, this is way too much in this bowl. So just keep that in mind. You probably need about half of what you see here in my bowl. Throw it into the microwave. Microwave it for about 30 seconds, and it will get really thin like this, which makes it super easy to just begin to spoon on top of the brownies. And as you do this, just give it a really generous spoonful. I like it when the witch starts to flow over the brownie, because it just kind of really emphasizes that it's not a round shape. It's kind of something bigger than that, and I just think it's kind of more impactful. Like this one in the back that I just did, you'll see it starts to kind of drip off of the brownie, and I just think that's super cute when that happens. I like to cover most of my brownie with the melted witch, so as you're kind of trying to figure out how much to do, I would definitely use like big size spoons, or even like small measuring cups, not filling them up obviously, but to get your frosting out. All right, so once you get your frosting kind of poured onto your brownie, you can go back, and if you need to fix any little spots where you want it to kind of roll over the edge, you can. But then next, really all that's left to do is to put your witch hats onto your brownie. And again, you can see here, since I cut my 9 pieces, my witch hats were really big for this brownie, and that's where I was saying I think maybe that smaller mint cookie might even have been better, since I'm doing this small of a brownie. And I think a lot of that will just depend. I think it always looks better if you only do 6 for any of them. It's just how many brownies do you need? I'm rarely just serving 6 people, and so I need to get the 9 brownies out of my pan. Often I'm doing 2 pans because I need about 20 brownies. So it really depends on how many you're needing to make. But these just turn out so cute. It is kind of funny when people look at them. It usually takes them about, 10 seconds to process. And then they'll say, oh my gosh, that is a melted witch. And they think that that is so funny. So good luck if you try these brownies. And our last brownie is our vampire brownie. These are super easy brownies to make. On top, it's basically a miniature York peppermint patty. I did bake a York peppermint patty within each brownie piece as well. And it's simply the same eyes you saw me use on the mummies, and then a little bit of red gel icing and a little bit of white icing for the mouth and the fangs. Okay, let's take a look at what we need to make these vampire brownies. First, I used 18 of the miniature York peppermint patties. We need the red icing or red gel. I used white icing, and I used these eyes. And of course, you need brownies. But I did these brownies a little bit differently, and I put the York peppermint patties into the brownie mix before I baked it. And so basically, I know I'm cutting my brownies into 9 squares, and so I just centered those peppermint patties within the center of what I thought each piece of brownie would be. And this is really cute because the vampire that's created for the brownies will actually be on top of the brownie. This just also puts some peppermint within the brownie as well. So once I get my brownies on here, I do want to kind of push them down into the batter, and I want to cover the peppermint up with the chocolate. So you can kind of see me just gently pushing them down, and then I'll scoop a little bit of chocolate on top of the peppermint patty just so that it's not exposed to the top of the brownie mix. Once the brownies are done, I do need to unwrap the other 9 York peppermint patties that I'm going to use for my vampires and just get them onto each of my brownies. And I'm using icing to make sure that the eyes are sticking to the York peppermint patties. And then just drawing a straight line for the mouth, and then just 2 long lines for the fangs. This really is such an easy brownie to make because it's not real artistic. It's a matter of kind of 3 lines that you're drawing on the actual brownie. This is another one that's a lot of fun. I think the surprise of the York peppermint patty in the brownie is something that we always hear from people. It's a combination you don't find a lot with York peppermint patties and brownies. And so it's just kind of a fun addition whenever we do any kind of dessert bar, brownie bar, to include this vampire brownie within that as well. And that's it. That's our lineup of 4 different really fun Halloween treats, Halloween brownies. Our tombstone brownie with a really cute Milano cookie and the pumpkin patch, always a hit. And then we've got our mummy brownie, the super, I'd say, easiest one of all to make, with just quick back and forth strokes of some icing and throw on a couple of eyes. Our melted witch brownie seems to be kind of the surprise one that people, not so many people have seen, and just kind of clever about the melted witch. And then, of course, this last one you just saw, our vampire brownie with that surprise of York peppermint patty inside. So hope you had fun watching this video today. If you decide to make one, I'd love it if you leave a comment in the bottom and let me know which one you made. If you do any variations of any of these brownies, I'd also love to hear about that as well. Just put that in the comments. Thanks.